Hello, and today I'm journaling in my journal. Hi! Today I'm working in my journal. This is the one I'm using for my new class, Journaling for Justice. And today I'm going to be finishing off my entry that I started in my mini class on last month. And so that's what we'll be doing today. So let's check out that Gelli Plate. So I ordered this Gelli Plate, and this is a new tool for me. You know, I was an art major in school, and I was a printmaker even, and I made monoprints before, but just not with a Gelli Plate. And so I got a fresh Brayer too, and I'm using some different paints. So I'm going to start off with the Crafter's Square paint from the dollar store, and then some PBO paint from Illustrated Faith and Dayspring from several kits, because I'm trying to use it in my stash. And then this gigantic tube of Liquitex Basics. And this is some mulberry paper. I got it at Blick. It's on Amazon too, but it's cheaper on Blick. And I got my son's discount because he works at Blick. And it's some really nice paper. It's been many, many years since I used paper that nice, maybe decades. So because it reminded me of being in school again, I went back to the way I was trained to work with paper and make prints. And so I'm trying to figure out the size of the paper here, and I'm going to start cutting it with a knife, with a steak knife. And when I was in school, we did that to keep the edges looking natural, like a handmade piece of paper. We would cut it with a serrated knife, and so that's what I'm doing here. But what I forgot about is that this isn't very good, high quality paper. It just feels that way because I've been using copy paper all this time. So I'm going to try to cut it and make it look natural, and it's going to cut totally straight. So I'm starting out with some yellow, and I'm going to mix it with some of the Crafter's Square paint, which is really translucent, to make it not so opaque. I want to print this Gelli Plate in my journal over handwriting, and I want the handwriting to show through, and so I don't want it to be too opaque. So this paper has a very smooth side and a rough side, and we're going to be putting the smooth side on the side that comes in contact with the plate. Is going to be the smooth side, so that we can get a clean print. Now I'm going to try some blue. I'm using this bubble stencil, and I've had it for years and years, and I couldn't tell you where I got it, but I've had it forever, maybe 15, 20 years. So what I don't realize is that there's a big plop of paint that I didn't mix in, and so I'm going to see it close up in a minute here. And there it is, the unmixed yellow blob. Now I'm going to add some matte medium. The matte medium is basically acrylic paint with no pigment in it. So that's another way you can thin paint, is with matte medium. Now I'm trying a different stencil. This one's a little bit more fine. I got this one at Michael's a couple years ago. It came in a stamp kit, or it was sold with a stamp, and I couldn't tell you which stamp. So what I'm learning about these Gelli Plates is that you can't do very fine stencil work. It's got to be pretty open. He likes chunky stencils, not these tiny ones. So now I'm trying to make sure all the paper is making contact with the plate. And I noticed I got some paint on my plate there. When I make prints like this, I'm very clean and fastidious. I remember I used to do my printmaking in a white sweater. I'm just weird that way. So it looks pretty good. And now I'm going to make a print from the paint that's underneath the stencil. There, that's pretty. I'm going to use that later for some collage. So now I'm getting the hang of this. So now I'm ready to do some printing in my journal. And so I'm trying to print the ghost print in the journal right now with the paint that's left over on the stencil. I left it too long and it dried. So into the warm soapy water it goes. So I'm going to try to go back to my printmaking roots again, where I would use a palette and roll everything out on a piece of glass and then transfer the paint onto the plate. And so I'm doing my magic mix of matte medium, the Dollar Tree paint, and orange. But the plate wasn't such a good idea. It's not flat. So when I'm rolling the brayer back and forth, I'm picking it up so it's landing on a different part of the brayer every time it makes contact with the Gelli plate. So now I'm going to try to roll it out on the plate instead of the plate, on the Gelli plate. Very thin layer of paint. And it worked. That's exactly what I wanted it to look like. Oh, and I used too much water, so it pulled up the paper a little bit. I usually use these stencils for my Bible journaling with fiber paste. So this is all new for me. I'm giving up on that plate as a palette. And that's the great thing about when you thin paint down so much, it's really easy to clean up. I went and I watched a whole bunch of videos, and I watched one of my favorite artists right now. Her name is Elizabeth St. Hilaire. She has workshops too, and one day I'm going to take one of her workshops. But she makes these beautiful paintings. She paints them, and then she does a collage over the painting with little tiny pieces of paper that she's created from Gelli plates, and they're just beautiful. And that was my specialty in school, was collage, and so I just love watching her, and I follow her on Instagram. And so I went and I watched about 20 of her videos on how to do these Gelli plates. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. I'm holding up the edge so it doesn't put any paint on the crown. So I learned from the videos that you start with the lightest color first if you're doing more than one pull on the plate. I'm starting to like that stencil. So now I'm going to do the negative, so what's left of the paint that was underneath the stencil. And now I'm trying to get fancy by doing some block printing in different places on the page. And so I have a bowl of warm soapy water on the side, and so when I'm done with the stencils, I'm putting them in the warm soapy water. And so this paint is a little bit different than the paint that I use in school. I used oil-based ink, and it's really thick, and so I was pushing too hard in the beginning, and so you can see I'm making marks on the Gelli Plate from the Brayer, and so over time I lessen the pressure I'm putting on the Brayer, and the prints start to come out better. So more tempera paint. So now I'm going to do some more experimenting. Now I'm going to add some tempera paint from the Dollar Tree into my acrylic paint. And technically I'm breaking the paint rules because I'm mixing tempera, which is not permanent paint. You can it's washable. But the acrylic is not, but the acrylic is permanent. So I'm mixing two unlike paints, and so we'll see how it goes. So the reason why I'm using that color, it's kind of like dirt or beige, and it's because I want all of the colors that I add to my journal page to be kind of cohesive and kind of look like they go together, and so they're all going to have a little bit of this beige mixed in. And again, that's from my schooling. My teachers used to make me add burnt umber to everything, and so in this case it's like peach color that I'm adding to everything. So I'm going to do some more color blocking with partial prints. That picked up some of the writing because the ink I'm using isn't waterproof. Now I'm mixing it like that artist that I like so much. Her name is Elizabeth St. Hilaire, and her Instagram handle is Paper Paintings Collage. Really good. She's a really good artist. Really good artist. I love everything that she makes. Now I chose a pretty small Gelli Plate because my desk is really small, and I tend to put things in a little Bible, or I make memory decks cards, but after watching like 100 videos about this, I was supposed to get the 8x10 Gelli Plate. So maybe next time that's the one I'll get. So with each print page that I print, the paint's getting thinner and thinner, and it's getting easier and easier to manipulate. So I'm learning from this that I was putting too much paint on it, because my friend Elizabeth, she puts a lot of paint on her plates, but this doesn't really need that much paint at all. Okay, so next I cut out a picture from my printable. I've got a free printable on my link tree and in the description box, and it's the follow-up to the digital Bible journaling session that I did with Pearls and Pom Pom. And so I've got some elements that you can practice more digital Bible journaling techniques, and so this is in that freebie. And so I cut it out and I glued it in with some matte medium, and then I used mostly this one and the brown one, a Neil color too, and I colored in the spots here in the crown where it was white before, so it's not such a drastic change in color. And so I'm just about done. The last thing is going to be the title. I haven't decided how I'm going to do that yet, but you'll see the finished one in the outro. So thank you for joining me today and working in this journal, and I would invite you to join me in Journaling for Justice. And if you want to see more content like this, click on one of these.